ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गाय नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वती पतये। हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम हरि ओम। We'll begin with the Shanti mantra. ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक् प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेयोपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Hari Om. In this sixth chapter of Chandogya Upanishad, Uddalaka Muni reveals Brahma Vidya to his son Shvetaketu. In the beginning itself, the teacher gives the example of the pots and the clay to show us the relationship between the world and Brahma. Ultimately, we have to recognize that Brahma is not within the scope of any of the worldly praman. But luckily, Brahma is expressing as this world. So through the world, we can recognize that Brahma. So the clay is there, a lump of clay, and it gets converted into various pots, bricks, tiles. So if one knows that lump of clay, then one knows all that which is made up of clay. In the same way, this world which we see is also made up of something. So how do we know what it is made up of? What is the material cause of this world? The material cause is that from which this world arises, in which the world is sustained, and in which the world again goes back. That is the material cause. And that is revealed as Sat, Brahma. So Sadeva Swami Idamakkara Asit, in the beginning, before this world manifested in various names and forms, it was present only as Sat, Brahma. Just as before the pots, tiles, bricks manifested, they were present as clay. Similarly, this world was just Sat, Brahma alone. No differentiation of any kind. Then the teacher reveals that from that Sat manifested fire. So Sat alone thought that let me become many, and it expressed as fire. Then as fire it thought and expressed as water. And as water it thought, let me become many, and became the earth. So in this way, the process of creation is briefly mentioned here, but the details are there given in our other places in our Shastras. So that Brahma, which is Ekameva Advitiyam, one alone, other than Brahma, nothing else is there. And that Brahma has its own power, Shakti, called Maya or Prakriti. So Brahma, along with his power, is also indicated as Ishvara. So Ishvara is another name of Brahma. Wherein the Shakti is as though presented as different from Ishvara as his Shakti, as Bhagavan says, my Prakriti, my Maya. So this is just to teach us about that Brahma. Ishvara and his Shakti is presented as though different to teach us about that Brahma. This Dvaita which is presented is just Adhyaropa. It is purposely assumed so that we can understand that Ishvara through this world, because Ishvara is then presented as from whom the world has come into existence, in whom the world is sustained, and in whom the world gets dissolved. So in order to comprehend this process, Ishvara and his Shakti is presented. So this Shakti is twofold. It's a Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. And in Ishvara, it remains undifferentiated. So Para Prakriti is Prana, the Shakti, the Prana, and Apara Prakriti are the eightfold, the Pancha Tanmatras, Ahankar, Tattva, Mahat Tattva, and Avyakta. So this Prana and this Ashtada Prakriti remains undifferentiated in Ishvara. Hence, Ishvara is totally one with Brahma, is Brahma alone. Nirgun, Nirakar, Brahma. Then from Ishvara, spontaneously, the manifestation happens of his Prakriti as Prana and as Samashti Ahankar, Samashti Chitta, Samashti Buddhi, Samashti Mana, and Panchatan Matras. When this manifestation happens, then the first Jiva is born, who is Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is also indicated as Sagun Brahma or Sagun Ishvara. So Hiranyagarbha, through his Samashti Buddhi, Samashti Mana, converts this Pancha Tanmatras into Pancha Mahabhut. This process is indicated in Taittiriya Upanishad as Tasmad Vai Tasmad Atmanaha Akashas Sambhutaha Akashad Vayuhu Vayoragnihi Agnirapaha Adbhya Prithivi. So from that Panchatanmatra alone, Akash is born, the gross Akash, Mahabhut, which has got the characteristic of sound. From Akash is born Vayu, which has got two characteristics of sound and touch. From Vayu is born fire, which has got three characteristics: sound, touch, and sight. So here in Chandogya Upanishad, The description is from the creation of this fire itself, which is indicated as Tej. So from that Sat, Tej is born, fire. Then from fire is born water, which has got 4 characteristics: Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa. And from water is born earth, which has got 5 characteristics: Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. So with the birth of this Panchat Mahabhut, another Jiva is born, who is Vaishvanara, who is Saguna Sakar. Vaishvanara is born. Then Vaishvanara does the process of Trivrat Karanam of this Pancha Mahabhut, taking the 3 Mahabhut, fire, water and earth, and more complex Pancha Mahabhut are born. More complex Pancha Mahabhut are born with this first Trivrat Karanam. And with this Pancha Mahabhut, the various lokas are created, and the various devatas, they get their body, so they are born. Various devatas are born. So the sun, the moon, the stars, the fire which we see, the rains, the water bodies, the solid earth, other planets, moons, satellites, meteorites, asteroids, all these various things are born. But still, living beings, after the devatas, are not there. Then through the devatas, again the Trivrat Karanam happens. Vaishvanara does Trivrat Karanam, and then the plants are born. So plants get their energy and their material from the soil, from the sun, and from the rains and other water bodies, which are the devatas. So sun devata, rain devata, earth devata, through them are born the various herbs and plants. So they are the products of second Trivrat Karanam. Then again, one more time Trivrat Karanam happens, and the bodies of animal, birds, human beings are born. So our body is a product of the plants. So whatever, not only our body, physical body is a product of or derived from these plants and third Trivrat Karanam, but even our organs of perception, means Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas, and our mana and the Pancha Pranas are also expressed through the products of the third Trivrat Karanam. I'm refreshing your memory. we have done this all in detail, but now we are summarizing. So, this is indicated here in this Upanishad, so that from the effect, we can, through our thinking, we can trace back to the cause. So, this is the process that from the karya, you understand the karana. Because there is a karya karana sambandha is there. There is a relationship between the karya and the karana. And what is the relationship? That the karana is present in karya. But the characteristics of the karya is not present in the karana. Like this pot, the clay is present in this pot. The pot cannot exist without clay. Clay is present. Clay pervades this pot. But in the clay itself, before this pot is made, in the clay itself, we don't see this shape. And there is no shape and there is no name as clay, as pot in clay. Similarly, this world which we see is pervaded by the Brahma, because Brahma is the ultimate cause. Therefore, in Gita also, Bhagavan identifying with this Brahma as Ishvara, Bhagavan says ki Maya tatan idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina, that this entire world is pervaded by me. But in my unmanifest, in my subtle form, means you are not able to see me through your senses, but I am present. See, in case of this pot, with our eyes we can see this pot. With the same eyes we can see the clay also. But in case of this world, with the eyes, with our senses, we can see the world. But with our senses, we cannot see Brahma, though he is present. Brahma is present, but we can't see Brahma through our senses. So through the Karya Karana Sambandha, we have to comprehend this Brahma. And the relationship is indicated in that example of pot and clay, wherein the teacher says that the pot, the shape is just a vikar. It's just a vikar, it's just a modification. Vacharambanam vikaro nama dhyeyam mrittiketteva satyam. The shape, the form is just a vikar. Vikar means just a modification of this clay, which is just a name. This pot is just a name. And in order to understand this clay, we begin with the pot. We begin with that name pot and that form pot, and then we understand the clay. But a pot doesn't have a separate existence. It is not something which exists separately. There is no such thing called a pot existing without a clay. Similarly, this world is pervaded by Brahma. Brahma is present in this world. Brahma alone is expressing as this world. Without Brahma, the world cannot exist. If somebody looks at this world but doesn't acknowledge the presence of Brahma, then they are understanding only a false world in their mind. It is like I am looking at this pot, but I don't acknowledge the clay. Then I am just looking at an imaginary pot. So the world which we see through our senses, which we touch, which we can do vyavahar, is pervaded by Brahma. The presence of Brahma is there in this world. And the form and the name is just Vacharambhanam. And that is precisely what is now said in this fourth section of the sixth chapter. कि यदग्रे रोहितं रूपं तेजसस्तद् रूपं यत् शुक्लं तद् अपां यत् कृष्णं तद् अन्नस्य अपागाद् अग्नेः अग्नित्वं वाचारम्भणं विकारो नामध्येयम् त्रीणि रूपाणि इत्येव सत्यम्. The teacher says that when you see fire, when you are seeing fire, that fire is a devata who is made up of his body. That body is made up of the three Panchamahabhut, which has undergone the process of Trivrit Karanam. So they are made up of fire, water, and earth. The Panchamahabhut, fire, water, earth. So teacher says you can recognize this by looking at this fire, that the form which we see, which is reddish in color, it is the expression of the fire Panchamahabhut. The form which we see, which is white in color, is the expression of water. And the dark form which we see in fire is the expression of earth. So the fire is made up of these three elements. Therefore, fire is just a form with a name. The three elements are Satyam. The effect is just a name, a form. The cause is Satyam. The effect is Asatyam. Asatyam is changing. It is existing, but constantly changing. But what is not changing in that effect? The cause. So we see fire, it is constantly changing, but its cause, which is fire, water, earth of the Panchamahabhut, remains without change. So it is the penultimate, the immediate cause of this fire. But if we look at that, these three elements also, fire, water, earth, they are also effect. So they are born from the Pancha Tanmatras. So the Pancha Mahabhut are vikara, modification based on name. Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam. The Pancha Tanmatras are Satyam. But again, if we think the Pancha Tanmatras are also effect, and Ahankar Tattva is the cause. So Pancha Tanmatras are Vikar, Vacharambhanam Vikaro Namadheyam, and the Ahankar Tattva is Satyam. So from the effect we are coming to the cause, but not the ultimate cause. So in between cause is there this Ahankar Tattva. Ahankar Tattva itself is born from Mahat Tattva. So Mahat Tattva is the cause and Ahankar Tattva is the effect. So the Mahat Tattva is Satyam. But Mahat Tattva itself has come from Avyakta. So Avyakta is Satyam and Mahat Tattva is Vikar. And this Avyakta is Bhagwan's Prakriti, Ishvara's Prakriti. Bhagwan says it is my Prakriti. And this Prakriti is not different from Ishvara. Prakriti is one with Ishvara. There is no difference. And Ishvara is Brahma. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So from the fire we can reach that Sat Brahma. Again the teacher gives example of the sun. From the sun again we can trace back to that Sat Brahma. From the moon we can trace back to Sat Brahma. From the lightning we can trace back to the ultimate cause as Sat Brahma. So giving this example, the teacher says that in the great rishis of the past, the great grahastis, they had also gained this knowledge, and from this world they could understand the ultimate cause as Brahma and realize that Brahma. So etad hasma vai tad vidvansa ahuhu purve mahashala mahashrotriya nanodya kaschana ashrutam amatam avidnyatam udaharishyati yebhyo vidam chakruhu. So nothing remained unknown to them. They could comprehend that Brahma, and since they had understood that Brahma, they could understand the whole world as Brahmamai. So nothing remained unknown to them. They could understand the essence of everything as Brahma. They became all knowing. So the teacher here talked about the Devatas, the fire, the sun, the moon, the lightning, etc. But then he again continues that again the Trivrit Karanam happens and plants are born. And these plants also further get divided into three to form not only our body but also our karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, mana, prana. So annam ashitam tredha vidhiyate tasya ya stavishto dhatuhu tat purisham bhavati yo madhyamaha tan mamsam yo anishtaha tan manaha. So the food which we eat, the solid food which we eat, they nourish our body, our senses, our mind, because the body, mind are the products of this food only. So they get, when food is eaten, it gets divided into three portions depending on its subtlety. So yaha stavishtaha dhatuhu, that which is gross, solid food becomes excreta. The food, middle portion of the food in its subtlety becomes the mamsa, the fat, muscles, they become the muscles. And yo anishthaha tan manaha, and the one which is extremely subtle portion of that food which we eat goes to become our mind. It nourishes our mind. The mind is already made when we are born by the food eaten by our parents, but then we have to continue to maintain this mind by eating food. So the subtlest portion of the food nourishes our mind. The middle portion of the food nourishes our muscles, and the solid portion of the food gets excreted. In the same way, when we drink water, it nourishes the pancha pranas. See, pran is the Shakti of Bhagwan. It expresses in a human body and other body of other animals and other creatures as pancha pranas. And these pancha pranas, they are sustained by water. So when we drink water or juice, then the solid portion of this water becomes urine and gets eliminated. The middle portion of water becomes goes to become our blood, and the subtlest portion of water nourishes our prana, the pancha pranas. Then again, the fire which we eat, fire means oil and ghee which we eat, that also gets divided into three portions, three levels depending on its subtlety. The gross portion of this fire goes to nourish our bones. The middle portion of the fire, the ghee and oil, which we eat, nourishes the bone marrows. And the subtlest portion of this fire nourishes our karmendriyas. So our karmendriyas, our mind along with the jnanendriyas, and our body is all nourished by the food which we eat, the water which we drink, the juices which we drink, the fire which we eat in the form of ghee and oil. Therefore, the teacher finally concludes, he says, Annamayam hi soumya manaha. Our mind is made up of food which we eat. Annamayam. Apomayam, apomayaha pranaha. Our pranas are apomaya, means made up of water. Tejomayiva. Our karmendriyas, vani, etc. are made up of the fire which we eat. Bhuya eva ma Bhagavan Vijnapayatu iti tatha Somya hovacha. Shvetaketu says, please, teacher, please explain this to me again. This is a very subtle the truth which is revealed here. we eat the same food, but it gets divided into our body. And the different portions that nourish the different aspect of our personality. So it's very, very fascinating and wonderful thing which happens. So Shvetaketu wanted to understand this with some example. So the teacher gives the example of curd. So we take some curd and we churn that curd. Then what happens? It also gets divided into various layers. So there is this the watery portion remains as the buttermilk. Then the what you call the that middle portion, it rises up. Butter rises up, and when that butter is heated, it gets converted into ghee. So that dahi itself has got these three portions: the buttermilk, the butter, and the ghee. Through churning, it gets divided through heat and all. It gets divided in this way. In the same way, the food which we eat gets divided within because of the churning process which happens in the body, because of the system which is there in the body. So the subtlest portion of the food rises up to nourish our mind. The middle portion of the food, it nourishes our muscles, and the gross solid portion gets excreted. In the same way, the water, the subtlest portion nourishes the pranas. The middle portion then nourish our blood, becomes our blood, and the gross stula portion of the water is eliminated as urine. Again, fire also gets divided into three. The subtlest portion nourishes our karmendriyas. The middle portion nourishes the bone marrows, and the gross portion nourishes the bone. So, in this way, the teacher explained and again concluded that Annamayam hi somya manaha apomaya pranaha tejomayi vag iti goya eva ma bhagwan vidyapayatu iti tatha somya iti govacha. Again, Shvetaketu, he says that, okay, I understood this, but how the mind, our mind is nourished by food, that I am unable to comprehend. See, now let me again refresh your memory. Bhagwan's Prakriti, Ashtadha Prakriti, which is the five Tanmatras, Ahankar Tattva, Mahat Tattva, and Avyakta. This Avyakta Prakriti expresses as Ahankar and Chitta. Mahat Tattva expresses as Buddhi. Ahankar Tattva expresses as Mana, and Ahankar Tattva also expresses as Pancha Tanmatras. So this Mana, mind, is a very interesting instrument, which is a link as though between the Pancha Tanmatras and the buddhi. It understands the language of the Pancha Tanmatras, the Pancha Mahabhut, and it is also connected to our buddhi. So buddhi is connected to our mind, and mind is connected to the Pancha Tanmatras, Pancha Mahabhut, because it is derived from the same Ahankar Tattva. Therefore, often in our Shastras, the Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Jnanendriyas, which are born from the Pancha Mahabhut, which has undergone the Trivrit Karanam, from that same process, the mind is also born. So the mind is connected to the senses. Mind understands the language of the senses. And mind is also dependent on the food which we eat. The senses, karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, and the pancha pranas depend on the food which we eat. In the same way, mind also depends on the food which we eat. So this is a very subtle and very interesting truth which is revealed here. And Shvetaketu had difficulty in comprehending this. So he asked his teacher, please explain this to me again with some example. The teacher said that you do one experiment. Then you will understand that you fast, don't eat anything for 15 days. Shodasha kalaha saumya purushaha panchadasha hani masihi kamam apa piba apomaya prano na pibato vichetsyata iti. That this mind, you want to know how the mind is nourished by food, you do an experiment and directly experience it. This mind is nourished by food, and mind has got these 16 kalas. These kalas are mentioned here of the mind. So you do one thing, you don't eat for 15 days. But you can continue drinking water as much as you want. Because the water will keep nourishing the pranas, so you will not die. But the mind will not receive nourishment, and you will understand that mind is nourished by food. So Shvetaketu, he fasted for 15 days, and after 15 days he approached his teacher and asked him, now what? Teacher says, okay, you do some chanting, chant some mantras. So he tried to recollect them. He tried to use his mind to connect with his buddhi, to connect with his memory. But it became very difficult for him. He just could not remember. He could not recollect. Those things did not come in his mind. He didn't understand what is happening. He told his teacher that nothing comes to my mind. I don't remember. The teacher says this is because your mind is not getting the nourishment. It has become weak. Just as a fire which is kindled, which is blazing, but only one lighted that fire is remaining, it will not have that much heat. Some charcoal is still burning, but otherwise the fire has cooled down. It is not blazing, so it will not give the same heat. Similarly, from your 16 kalas, your 15 kalas of your mind has cooled down. Only one kala is functioning. So your mind is still alive, but you are not able to comprehend. So you do one thing, you now go and eat, and then you come to me. So he ate, and he returned back to the teacher. So Sir Ashat Enam Upasasada Tagam Yatkincha Papracha Sarvam Pratipede. Then the teacher again told him, okay, now you do the chanting. So Shvetakirti could remember everything. He could recollect. He could use his memory. He could connect with his buddhi. He could chant. So then the teacher said that just as the little fire is still burning and you put some fuel and all, and then it again blazes and you can get the same heat as before. Similarly, when a little portion of your mind Shakti was remaining, then after eating food, it got nourishment. And now the mind is fully nourished, and therefore you could recollect everything. Therefore, he Swami. In the same way, you should understand about water and about fire also. So the water nourishes our pranas, but we don't want to do the experiment with the pranas. You might die. So same thing happens with the pranas, and same is true about when we eat fire. It nourishes our karmendriyas. So in this way, the teacher gave the whole detailed description of the creation, right from that Sat Brahma all the way to the human body, to the human mind, to our senses, to our pranas, through our karmendriyas. And when we trace them back, we understand them as that Sat Brahma. So the whole world, not only the world which we see outside this body, this world can be traced back to that Sat, but even our body, our senses, our mind, our karmendriyas can be traced back to that Brahma. So this body, senses and all, they are just a vikar. They are just modification based on name. The Sat behind them is Sat Brahma. So Vacharamano Vikaro Namadhyayam Mrittiketteva Satyam. So this is a very fascinating thing which the teacher revealed. Let me, with an example, tell you the whole thing, because it's very important and this should be kept in our mind when we contemplate, when we meditate. So, for example, we have the pen, okay, the ink, the ink is there. There is ink. So just focus on the ink, don't pay attention to the shape and all. So ink. So this ink is like Brahma, Sat Brahma. Sat Brahma. There is no expression, no nothing, and just existence, knowledge, bliss, infinity, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Anandam Ekam Brahma. So before creation, this alone was there. Nothing else was there. This alone is expressing, you can see, a dot. A dot is there. One dot. The dot is just expression of this ink. Dot is an expression of this ink. But the dot is also ink. But it's an expression of this ink. We can talk about this dot. But very strange thing about this dot or a point, it doesn't have any height, it doesn't have any width, it doesn't have any breadth. Means it has got no dimensions. It is just a point in space, no dimensions. But it is very important. It's the beginning. It is that from which everything will now emerge. So if this is Brahma, then this dot is like Ishvara. Dot is like Ishvara, who is that Brahma only. Then this line is nothing but made up of infinite dots. The dot alone expresses as this line. Dot alone is present in all this entire line. This line is like the first expression of this dot. This line is like Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha, who is expressing with his Panchatan Matras, Samashti Mana, Samashti Buddhi, Samashti Chitta, Samashti Ahankar, Pranas, just expression of this Sat Brahma alone. Then Hiranyagarbha does Panchikaranam. And with this Panchikaranam, new type of 5 elements, gross 5 elements are born, and a Vaishvanara is born. Vaishvanara is born. But who is Vaishvanara? Vaishvanara is actually Hiranyagarbha only. And who is Hiranyagarbha? Is Ishvara. Who is Ishvara? Is Brahma. And then Vaishvanara does the Trivrat Karanam, and the Devatas Sharir are born, and Devatas are born. So the Devatas, with their body, with their Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Hankar, Pranas, the Devatas are born. But who are the Devatas? The Devatas are actually expression of this Vaishvanara only. Who is Vaishvanara? Oh, he is just an expression of this Hiranyagarbha. Who is Hiranyagarbha? Ishvara. Then again the Trivrat Karana happens, and the Sharira of the plants are born. And again the Trivrit Karanam happens and the Sharir of animal, birds, human beings are born. So where are we? We are here, human beings. Who are we? We are also that same Brahma, that Ishvara is present in us. The Ishvara is present everywhere. The point is present everywhere. Infinite. All these lines are made up of infinite points. So from here directly we can comprehend that we are that Brahma only. But if direct comprehension is difficult, then we can trace back our past and understand ourselves as that Ishvara, as Brahma, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Through our body, through our mind, through the world, we can comprehend ourselves as Brahma. So this is revealed here. First, the teacher reveals only the world and the bodies of the devatas, bodies of plants, bodies of human beings, the karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, pranas. So this covers everything, what we call world. And then in the next section, the 8th section, the teacher reveals that I. So now, till now, he has revealed the this, idam, which is traced back to Brahma, to Sarvam idam Brahma. And then he will reveal that aham and trace back that aham also to Brahma as aham brahmasmi. Fascinating, I tell you. So this is the way, in a beautiful way, we are convinced, our buddhi should be convinced that I am Brahma. This conviction is what is important. Once we get convinced that I am that Satyam Jnanam Anantam Anandam Ekam Brahma, then we have to meditate to gain the direct realization. But before gaining that realization, that conviction is extremely important. Without that conviction, we cannot meditate. So more about this we will see in our class on Wednesday. So till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy to your work, to your sadhana. Listen to the pravachan again, think about it, and gain that conviction. Accept what is revealed in the Upanishad as true. Have that complete faith, that complete shraddha, not only in the Upanishad, but also in the Bhashya of Bhagwan Sri Adi Shankaracharya ji, and gain that 100% conviction, and thereafter meditation will become easy. Then it is just a piece of cake. In Brahma Sutra Bhashya also, Shankaracharya says, कि ज्ञान प्रमाणेन avagantam ishtam brahma, that with this jnana, taking help of this jnana, then we can realize that Brahma. So we will meet again on Wednesday. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram. जय जय राम बोले सियावर रामचंद्र भगवान की जय। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।